I wanna know what you're thinking. There are some things you can't hide. I wanna know what you're feeling. Tell me what's on your mind. Pure energy. Pure energy.
Okay, that's just my little crazy intro to Pure Energy. I guess I'm gonna title this video Pure Energy. The other night, my best friend was up here at the lake with me on Friday night, and we were just talking about how like me talking about energy all the time seems to like trigger a lot of people around me. Like love the ones I love, like the ones that like are right there in my world every day. Like what in the world is wrong? Like why is this energy word such a big deal? Like why do people hate it so much? Just because I say like I can feel the energy in a room. And then Deborah, my friend, she was like, oh, that makes me think of that 80s song, Pure Energy. And so we looked it up and we were both listening to it. And we were both like, our eyes got this big. We were like, oh, it's perfect. It is exactly saying everything that I've been feeling. So anyway, if anybody else is with me, anybody else feeling this way, just know you're not alone. I mean, if you can feel energy, you can read a room, you're not alone. You ain't crazy, because energy is pure. And every one of us can actually tap into it and feel it. So anyway, I'm going to stop here for a second and share a little minute from our next day together. We went to a little restaurant up here called Blue Canoe that I love very, very much. And we watched the Georgia football game. And we just had a little funny moment with one of the bartenders that we love very much. We call him Brian with a Y. And I'm just going to share a little clip from our day at Blue Canoe. Anyway, I hope y'all enjoy, and then just stick around because I'm going to come back at the end with a little bit of reading from the book that I started the other day, Total Woman, and it's a little bit hysterical. So yeah, anyway, sorry about my dancing. I have no rhythm, but you know, just dance like no one's watching, right? That's what we're supposed to do with our whole lives. All right, just a second. I want you to watch this clip. It's just really fun. So I want to introduce you to Brian with a Y at Blue Canoe.
Apparently I told him a story and
What'd you do? What did you do? What did you do?
I told what meant to be a fib.
Why would you tell one anyway?
Because he's the king of tall tales.
I like to see what I can tell and see if I can get people to believe stuff.
Like, I had to quit believing him after like 4 months of us working together. I finally caught on to the fact that most of the stuff that he spills out of his mouth
Sugar,
is
we
BS.
came up here. We were sitting at the bar. He had some kind of pastry in Tupperware, and me and Angie were sitting up there drinking wine, and he said it was his grandmother's recipe.
For the longest time, everybody
that
thought I
doesn't
had my
surprise
mom's
me.
scissors from college back there behind the bar.
Yeah, the sewing
and then somebody
scissors
broke
that were
them.
Now he
broken.
owes
And I
us each a glass
said,
of rosé.
"You broke
to
my
equal
mother's
it out."
scissors from college?" And they're like, "Why would you even have that here at the bar anyway?"
This is
Yeah.
so perfect because I'm doing a story about how our history is a lie.
Maybe it's from people like me, and it started out as fibs, but ended up being lies because the 24-hour period passed without being told.
Clearly, because this
It's
was
like
in March.
Mockingbird Media. If you like turn the TV on and every station is saying the same thing, right? Those talking heads are saying the same thing. You turn the channel and you're like, there they go again, there they go again, there they go again.
Read from their
If you
script.
hear something so many times, what does it become?
Truth.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Well,
There were a bunch of the Stamies were sitting up there with us and ate it too.
They ate that cake too.
so our dishwasher, who's she's an older woman, I don't know if y'all seen her. So one day she came in and there was something going on with my eye. And she said, "What's wrong with your eye?" And I saw it, and I just went, I said, I had this experimental surgery. I was like, you know how people can read their text messages on their phone? I was like, I'll be able to like scroll through my eye and see. And she's like, why would you do something like that? And then she's like, how much did it cost? I said, well, it's experimental, so it was for free. But
Y'all,
if
he
it,
had her going.
if it doesn't work, I'm gonna lose my eye. She's like, you would do that? And I'm like, yeah, but if it works, I won't have to lose the phone or anything. I'll be able to scroll. Anyway, I forgot I told her about it, and a couple days later she came in and she said, how's your eye? Can you see them things yet? And so I was like, what are you talking about, Lynn? Then she had to remind me. I was like, oh,
You
man.
do owe us both a glass of rosé.
Actually, I'm a rosé on me on the house. So, but I was
No,
like,
he had found like where a piece of sunglasses.
Oh,
come
that's
out of
what
the
it was. Oh,
Sunglasses,
yeah.
and he had it on
it was
his
just
eye.
a lens. It was
He
like
had her
sunglasses
going
lens, and I
so
just had it. So
hard,
she's like, why you got
y'all.
that? I was like, I had this experimental surgery. And, well, why would you do that?
Lord love it.
Friends with a Y are terrible.
That's just terrible.
Okay, now I'm going to pick up on the introduction page, like the very beginning of this book. Well, of course, it actually starts with the writer saying, what does she say here? I need to put on my glasses. Get my glasses on so I can actually see to read to y'all. To my husband, Charlie, who understands me better than anyone else and still loves me. Aw. All right, introduction. Here we go. She says, I think in superlatives, so naturally I expected that my marriage to Charlie Morgan would be the world's greatest. Both of us were determined to give our best to each other, but my knowledge of what that entailed was nil. I believed in the all-American Cinderella story. Marriage was roughly curtains at the kitchen window, strawberries for breakfast, and loving all the time. Oh my gosh, this sounds like me, right? Like it sounds like me trying to be June Cleaver. Charlie and I had marvelous communication, so things looked very promising. I understood his vibrations. We were on the same wavelength. During the months of our engagement, he studied his law books at my apartment, and in between cases, he shared his dreams and fears with me. He told me his lifelong ambitions. He explained what he wanted to accomplish while telling me of cases he studied all day. He spoke excitedly of torts, contracts, and jurisdiction. I didn't understand most of what he said, but I hung on every word because I loved him. How fortunate I was to have found such a talkative man. I had heard about some husbands who never talked with their wives. I thought that Charlie was a voracious talker. The night he asked me to marry him, he nearly talked my ear off before that magic moment. It was my birthday, and we celebrated over a delicious dinner at Miami Beach. Charlie talked while I ate. Afterward, we drove out to the beach to look at the ocean. What a breathtaking night. A huge full moon shone down on the glistening waves. Stars flashed in the dreamlike atmosphere, and I felt like reaching out to catch one. We sat in the car and watched that timeless scene as the waves rolled in on shore. Charlie had a little stack of birthday presents for me. They were nice and he was so sweet, but he wasn't romantic at all. He just seemed to keep on talking, which was highly unusual in view of the surroundings. Content, I curled up in the warmth of his arms and I listened. But I was very drowsy. My full stomach and the hypnotic rhythm of the waves put me to sleep. I don't know how long I slept, but suddenly Charlie's words jolted me back to consciousness. He said, "And that's what I want in a wife," he was saying. My darling, with his analytical mind, had been outlining the qualities he wanted in a wife. What did he want in a wife? I had missed it. Was this a proposal? I responded quickly, however, when he took me eagerly in his arms and asked, "Will you be that girl?" My drowsiness was gone. Instantly, I was wide awake. He reached in the back seat again, this time for a velvet jewelry box, and placed a gorgeous diamond ring in the palm of my hand. He was asking me to be his forever, the joy of this moment. Only one nagging thought marred my joy and kept me awake that night. What were all those things he had been saying that he wanted in a wife? I couldn't admit I had slept through it all. I should have been awake. I could have saved myself and Charlie years of misery. I'm just going to stop here because I'm like, yeah, you probably could have saved yourself a lot of years of misery in writing this book that so many women read and tried to follow to make their husbands happy. Oh. All right. In the frantic 2-week break between semesters, we were married and we honeymooned gloriously in Florida. The days were sunny, the nights were star-studded. Indeed, married life was strawberries for breakfast and loving all the time. With Florida tans and happy hearts, we moved into a 3-room apartment. Our meager earthly belongings and limited responsibilities allowed me lots of spare time. I folded Charlie's shirts and spent hours making goodies for him. As the months passed, however, our lives became more complicated and we gradually changed. I was amazed to realize that Charlie had stopped talking. He had become distant and preoccupied. Instead of talking heart to heart, we never seemed to talk at all. In answer to my questions about his work and the events of the day, I received an indecipherable grunt. Once I grabbed his chin and said, "Hey, remember me? Look me in the eyeball. I'm talking to you." One night, after a monologue, my own, I came to the conclusion that Charlie had been the silent type all along. He had forced himself to talk before marriage in order to win me. If I were to have any meaningful conversations, I decided they would have to be with my girlfriends. Meanwhile, Charlie and I were polite to each other and said things like, "Please pass the salt." We went through the motions of living as though everything was just fine. But it wasn't. I had always thought I could carry on a pleasant conversation with just about anyone, but my husband stunted my confidence. Have you ever sat across from your husband in a crowded restaurant and wondered, what on earth can I say to this man I live with whom I am intimate? It baffled me. At dinner one night, everyone in the place was talking enthusiastically, and my brain couldn't come up with one intelligent remark to say to the man I loved. Each evening when Charlie walked in the front door after work, a cloud of gloom and tension floated in with him. That cloud was almost tangible. His homecoming was supposed to be the high point of my day. I had been waiting all day to love and care for him, but this tension cloud permeated our home atmosphere. We were at each other for some unknown reason. There was a barrier between us. As the years wore on, things got worse. Those barriers became insurmountable. I didn't know what caused them, and I certainly didn't know how to make them go away. Sometimes they lasted for days or weeks or even months. I was helpless and unhappy. I didn't want anything to come between us, especially this nameless, intangible enemy that I could not define or fight. I must learn to adjust, I thought. Thousands have before me. I adjusted. Several years passed. Our little girl Laura arrived, and I poured my life and time into her. Still, I pondered my communication breakdown with Charlie, and I realized that our tender romantic times had slowly slipped away too. We had our moments, but they were few, and I longed for romance. I thought back to our engagement period. How romantic Charlie had been. He was such a fabulous kisser, but now there were very few kisses. Where was my passionate lover? After a few short years of married life, I found myself sighing as we sat in front of the television set. As the hero on the tube took the heroine in his arms, I yearned for Charlie to take me in his. I wanted him to smother me with kisses, to make my heart pound again in his loving embraces. All the marriage articles I read explained how changes occurred throughout marriage. Love moves from a high peak of libido during courtship to a more stable, settled kind of love later on. As I looked at my husband prone in his television chair night after night, I thought, that's it. We've got settled love. I didn't like it one bit. Laura went to daily vacation Bible school when she was 4. She came home every night singing a catchy song. I'm in right, outright, upright, downright happy all the time. One evening, after hearing the song at least 9 times, Charlie looked at me in a peculiar way and began to chuckle. Say, he said, I have just the song for you. You're in right, outright, upright, downright, uptight all the time. He laughed and held his sides, but I was crushed. I thought, is he kidding, or am I uptight all the time? Wow. In spite of my sporadic outbursts, I like to think I was very calm and serene. I thought of myself as a loving wife and mother who coped beautifully with difficult situations and who never raised her voice. Of course, it wasn't a true image, but I was not quite ready for my husband's oblique observation. The next day, I cleaned the house vigorously because some friends from the north were coming by. Among other odd jobs, I polished the dining room table to a high sheen. Charlie came home just before the company arrived and emptied his briefcase, books, keys, loose change, and other odds and ends. Guess where? On the dining room table with the high sheen. I must admit that I overreacted a little bit. When the mushroom-shaped cloud settled, Charlie looked at me coldly and said with disgust, "Gee, you sure come unglued easily, don't you?" I stood there, hurt to the core and stunned by his remark. Don't I have a right to react violently? Do I come unglued easily, I asked myself. Why am I so uptight? What's happening to me, to us? I was often grouchy. A more accurate description would be shrewish. When I was, life was no fun. I didn't even enjoy my own company during those times. How could I expect my family to? I would try harder. I prepared a very nice dinner the next day and determined to be a sweet wife. However, the bottom fell out for me. Over the mashed potatoes, Charlie announced casually that we would be going out the next evening with some business associates. With no malice, I blurted out, "Oh no, we can't." And then I began to tell him of the plans I had already made. A terrible stony look passed over my husband's face. I braced myself. In icy tones with obvious control, he asked, "Why do you challenge me on every decision I make?" Challenge you, I repeated. I don't challenge you. I fight and argue with people all day long, he went on, and I don't intend to come home each night to fight and argue with you. Fight? I protested meekly. We don't fight. He said, from now on, when I plan for us to go somewhere, I will tell you 20 minutes ahead of time. You'll have time to get ready and we'll do without all this arguing. Well, my beautiful dinner was ruined. I ran upstairs and cried. I felt as if my little world was crumbling all around me. What disturbed me most at the moment was having only 20 minutes to prepare for any event. My own life would be a mystery to me. The finality with which Charlie spoke also scared me. I knew he was serious. When he didn't come upstairs to comfort me, I had to stop crying. I began to think about our marriage and what exactly was happening. We did love each other. We probably had a better relationship than most couples I knew. But though joined together as husband and wife, we certainly had no unity of spirit. I knew that those first few outbursts didn't mean that divorce was imminent, but I knew too that we weren't in ecstasy. Taking stock that night in my bedroom, I had to admit to myself that we definitely weren't doing very well. We were not moving forward. Something drastic had to be done. The proverb, as now, so then, became a distinct possibility for us. At the rate we were going, 10 years from now, we would hate each other. Being mediocre in any area of life never appealed to me, at least of all in marriage. I didn't want a marginal marriage. I wanted the best. That night I made a decision to change the collision course I was on. Lord. Okay. I think I can go on. This is actually kind of triggering for me. I'm reading this book for the first time, so along with you. So, whew. Charlie the Cheerleader. The change began with my pursuit of knowledge. I bought all the marriage books I could find. I read until I felt cross-eyed at night. I took self-improvement courses. I studied books on psychology. I studied the Bible. Over and over, certain principles emerged, and I began to apply them to my marriage with stunning results. As I learned to live these principles, my attitudes changed from day to day. Almost immediately, Charlie began to change as well. He began to talk to me in his old way. At times, he could hardly get his words out fast enough. I felt like we were dating again. Marriage was fun. The barriers were gone. This reminds me of years ago, I went to a Bible study with a group of women, and I can remember like a lot of us women that were in the Bible study before the study would start each week. Like we'd laugh about, what we had been learning, and we always had homework, and that our husbands were really enjoying us being in this Bible study because I guess we all seemed a little more easy to get along with or something. This is bringing back some crazy memories for me because that was like probably 20 years ago at least. Yeah. Ugh. Okay. Where were we? One night we sat on the bed and talked to each other for hours about our innermost feelings. He began to share his dreams and activities eyeball to eyeball again. I could hardly believe that this soul-to-soul communication had returned. I noticed that we began to smile at each other. That realization brought a pain to my heart. How far we had drifted apart. How rare a smile had been. During one family fun time over some little incident, I thought with a pang, oh wow, it's been such a long time since we've had a good laugh around here. Instead of Charlie sprawling in his TV chair all evening, we began to cuddle together on the sofa. He patted me as we passed each other in the house. We began acting like teenagers in love, not like tired, programmed, settled, married folks. It was quite a thrill, I can tell you. With communication reopened, romance was not far behind. I finally realized that my remote husband had longed for romance as much as I had. One night, after we had been asleep for hours, he woke me. He took me in his arms and said tenderly, "Darling, I just want to tell you I love you so very much." Then he rolled right over and promptly went to sleep. Now, maybe your husband wakes you up regularly in the middle of the night to tell you he loves you, but in 6 years of married life, mine never had. I stayed awake for a long time afterward, reliving that moment. I thought, can the application of these principles be the cause of this wonderful change in my husband's attitude toward me? The next morning at the breakfast table, Charlie said to our two little girls, "Everybody who loves mommy, clap their hands." And they all applauded enthusiastically. This demonstration coming from my staid, proper husband overwhelmed me. My sober lawyer, a cheerleader, this was too much. Later that week, we attended the finals of a tennis match. In the midst of the volleys, my husband kept pulling me close to him. He has always been very reserved in public, not even liking to hold hands. His behavior became so demonstrative that one of our friends remarked, "Say, what's with you two? Are you in love or something?" I wanted to jump up and down and shout, "Yes, and let me tell you how it all came about." The changes in my life began to affect Charlie's life patterns in tangible ways. He began bringing me gifts at night. He had never brought gifts home before. It was just something he didn't do. I didn't feel too badly about it. He was just frugal, and we both accepted the fact. Even his friends would kid him about a threefold test he applied before buying anything. Do we need it? Can we afford it? Can we live without it? Well, by the time he got to number 3, almost everything went by the board. One afternoon, he called to find out if I'd be home at 3 o'clock. I couldn't imagine what was coming, and I was stunned to see a truck pull up with a new refrigerator freezer. I had nagged for a new one for years, and he had refused. Every place we had lived had old refrigerator, and I wanted one without someone else's germs. My husband had said, "That's ridiculous, this one works. Why buy a new one?" Now, without being nagged, he was beginning to give me what I yearned for. During my days as a shrew, I had also pleaded with Charlie. I hate that she called herself a shrew. I had also pleaded with Charlie to let me decorate the family room. For 3 years, I nagged. The decor in that room became a real issue with me. It grated on my personality. I even hated to walk through the room. Finally, I nagged and insisted so much that Charlie, in desperation, announced, "Look, I love the family room exactly the way it is. We're not going to change it, and I don't want to hear another word about it ever." I was especially miserable that night because I knew I had backed him into a corner, and now the issue was closed. A few months after my decision to change, Charlie said casually at breakfast one morning, "I've been thinking, honey, I guess you can go ahead and do whatever you want in the family room as far as the decorating goes. And by the way, you might as well do the living room and dining room while you're at it." Well, I stopped squeezing the oranges and started squeezing him. The brand new love between us, whatever, has given us a brand new life together. The results of applying certain principles to my marriage were so revolutionary that I had to pass them on in the 4-lesson Total Woman course and now in this book. In fact, many of the illustrations used in this book are actual examples taken from Total Woman classes. So yeah, there were these classes that my mom took with my grandmother, who was, her mother-in-law, when she first married my dad. She took this Total Woman course at the Baptist Church, South Georgia. For example, one of my friends came to the classes as a last resort. She and her husband were considering divorce and hadn't spoken a civil word to each other for months. One morning in her kitchen, her 5-year-old daughter was listening to her parents shout at each other. Finally, she said, "When I grow up, I never want to get married. I don't want to act like you and Daddy." The mother was jolted to her senses and knew that she was painting a terrible picture for her little girl. At the end of the first session, the mother wondered how she could do her assignment, but she was determined to try. When she came to class the second week, she was radiant. "What I've seen this week is unbelievable," she reported. "My husband wasn't even speaking to me when I began, but I did all my assignments. He has never brought me a gift before, but the past week he brought me 2 nighties, 2 rose bushes, and a can opener." Some of my friends have asked why I want to tell all this. I realize that much of it sounds like something out of a slick magazine. In a sense, it is. The only reason I can share it at all is that my life has changed for the better. If another woman can learn and profit from my mistakes, why not pass it on? This book is not intended to be the ultimate authority on marriage. Far from it, I'll say. I don't pretend to have an automatic, ready-to-wear answer for every marriage problem. I do believe it is possible, however, for almost any wife to have her husband absolutely adore her in just a few weeks' time. She could revive romance, reestablish communication, break down barriers, and put sizzle back into her marriage. It really is up to her. She has the power. Well, yeah, girls, we know we have that power. But come on. If through reading and applying these principles, you become a total woman with your husband more in love with you than ever before, my efforts in writing this book will have been rewarded. And so then we will start, I guess, chapter 2. So I guess chapter 1 was the introduction. Lord have mercy. Speaking of like total women, yesterday, my friend and I, while we were up here at the lake, we went on a little boat ride. We went to La Prade's Marina, and there's a pizza place there, and we love to go there. And we got a spot at a picnic table outside, and we were able to just look at the water and kind of watch the boats come in. And we fed some fish right there and ducks and things. And there was a table behind us with probably 6 women at it, and they were all having a wine tasting from the restaurant. There was a girl that worked at the restaurant was out like talking about the different wines and things, and so we were just kind of eavesdropping a little bit. You couldn't help but hear what they were saying because one of the women was so loud. I mean, she was so loud. They were gossiping about all the other women who weren't with them that they all knew, and it was just disgusting. It was so disgusting to my friend and me. We were just like, we got to get out of here. Like the energy, we could feel the energy behind us. It was so gross. It was so gross to hear these women bashing other women. They were saying things like, "Oh, she slept with him," or oh my gosh, and she's gonna homeschool her child, stuff like that. And that's exactly how they sounded, really. That one woman sounded like that, and it just made me sad. But at the same time, it was almost like we were very close to them, and we were having a really good, peaceful time, right? Being just good girlfriends. We had a bottle of wine together, and we ordered a pizza. We had this little vegetarian pizza and a bottle of wine. It was just perfect little moment out there. in the early happy hour. And to have these women right behind us sharing that kind of energy together, woo, it was a lot. It was just a lot to take in. And I almost feel like, you know, part of me is kind of always thinking like, I wonder if like, if we just shine our light over that way, maybe they'll see it and they'll shut up and they'll like focus on like really the good things that they have going on right now, instead of focusing on what they assume is negative about all these other women that they think they know. But quite honestly, I feel like they didn't even see us. I feel like we were sort of in a parallel universe where we were like over here, like all in the light, and then they were just over there in, I guess you call it the Matrix or something, like just like I don't know, just in gossip land. And it was just really gross. It was really gross. And the thing was, when we first walked by their table before the girls had sat down, their table, it's just a picnic table outside, was all set up with these, you know, like nice crystal glasses and getting ready for the wine tasting, I guess. And my friend and I were like, oh, that looks so nice, you know, it looks so nice, because we're going to be drinking out of plastic cups and with our wine, you know, because that's what they gave us at the restaurant. And like, next time we'll have to remember to bring our fancy glasses, you know. But then when they sat down, all that beauty that was at that table just diminished immediately when they started opening their mouths. So it really is true that there's so much power in your tongue. There's so much power in the words that you speak. So like what's in your heart comes out your mouth, you know? So remember that. And I'm going to be kind of processing the beginning of that book a little bit, and thinking kind of about that and about marriage and just about people in general, just our energies. And do you think you feel energy? Can you read a room? Can you and do you ever feel like you're in a parallel universe, like you're over here and there's other people over here and they don't even know you're there? They can't even see you. They can't even see you. So I just wonder, like, am I the only one? I want to know what you're thinking. Tell me what's on your mind. All right, let me see if there's anything else. I've taken just a couple of notes. I guess that's it. Y'all. Have a great rest of your week. Today's Monday, and I'll put a little link in the description to Mystery Monday that I did with Bryce of Esoteric Atlanta. That aired this morning, and it's about the Georgia werewolf of all things. Woo! You know, crazy stuff. So I talk about all kinds of different things, and I am not afraid these days to just like share my mind and you know, go down some crazy rabbit holes. So anyway, I'll put the link to that video down in the description. And anyway, I hope that you'll comment to me. Let me know. Do you feel like you're living in a parallel universe sometimes? Can you read a room? Can you, I mean, just like listening to other people and going, they don't even see me. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. All right. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.